going on, guys? It's Kid Flash here, and welcome back to another video on Arrow Season 6. This is going to be my review for Episode 2, which is titled Tribute. And as you know, we do the things I liked, the things I didn't like, and I give an overall rating for the episode at the end of the review. So, let's get straight into that with the things I liked. First thing I liked straight off the bat was the new opening logo thing, how it had all of the different logos from all of the different people on the team. So I think it was Wild Dog, Mr. Terrific, and Black Canary. I'm not sure if Overwatch or Felicity had one, and then obviously we had the Arrow logo at the end. And oh my god, that was amazing. I love that. I love the new intro. But like they used the same intro as like the first 5 seasons, just altered it with the new footage. So slightly disappointed in that. I know I usually talk about the things I didn't like at the end. I just wanted to include that in because I was talking about the logo. Anyway, going back to the things I did like, I loved the comedy from Oliver at the start of the episode. How he's like, so did you see anything good on the news last night? Because obviously, you know, he was outed as the Green Arrow at the end of the previous episode on the Channel 52 News. So, he's just playing off of that and making a joke out of it, which was great. It's good to see Oliver making jokes because it actually makes him more like the comic book Oliver, which was a more light-hearted Green Arrow, whereas this is basically CW Batman. Which I don't mind because I like both characters. I like this Arrow and I like the comic book Arrow, so we can like both and it'll be fine. And then there was a Batman Easter egg straight after that where he was like, "Has Bruce Wayne left Gotham recently to hang out in Star City?" No, I didn't think so. I love the subtle teases or Easter eggs to other comic book characters that we've had so far in Arrow. So we had the teaser in episode 1 for comic book Black Canary. Now we have Batman. Oh my god, this season's gonna be great if they keep it up with this. I'm really enjoying it so far. Moving on, I loved Renee again in this episode. He is great so far this season. Renee and Wild Dog. It's mostly Renee because we haven't seen much of Wild Dog this season because you know Diggle got him shot and he had a collapsed lung in the first episode, so we didn't get to see much Wild Dog action then. But I love the humor he's bringing. Like, for example, when he was talking to Oliver about using the 20 million they're using for the SCPD to rebuild it, it's like, so we should go to Vegas. And it's like, I can't leave Star City. And it's like, oh, so you're saying it's okay for me to go to Vegas? I love that. I love the humor. I much prefer him in this season than I did last season. I feel like he's much more developed this season. And last season, he was just there to challenge Oliver as he didn't really trust him last season. But this season, he trusts him, and it's awesome to see his character develop in this season. Moving on, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, but I think this was the first full episode of Arrow that wasn't crossover to not have flashbacks. And that, I applaud them for, because they managed to get a full episode of Arrow without the support of other characters in the Arrowverse and actually have story and a developed story throughout it without the use of flashbacks, which was, I applaud them. They haven't done that before, I don't think. Again, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments below. But as far as I can remember, they haven't actually done that in the show before. Obviously, unless it was a crossover. Anyway, moving on. Anatolia's back in this episode, and so are the Bratva. And I love how they were represented as the villain for the episode, but they had morals at the same time. Like, for example, he was like to Oliver, I could have kidnapped your son, I could have put a bomb in his school, but I didn't. I still have morals. And he's like, so why did you leak the picture of me? He's like, I didn't. Like I said, I have morals. So Anatoly and the Bratva were kind of the villain for this episode because he did kill somebody, but he could have done it in a much, much, much worse way. I feel like another one of the bigger villains in this episode was actually the FBI, as they were investigating Oliver for being the Green Arrow, and it was the FBI agent, and I feel like she represented another one of the villains in the episode. More of a minor role, but obviously the Bratva being the big one, but I feel like she was still in there as like being one of the villains in the episode. Anyway, moving on, I love the Dinah and Diggle scenes and how Diggle explains to Dinah what happened to him on Lian Yu and how the explosion he was actually caught up in gave him nerve damage. So I have a feeling it's like a mix of PTSD and the nerve damage, because obviously the nerve damage would stop him from being able to shoot a gun properly. So he's like, I have a feeling that this is going to have lasting effects on the season as a whole, Like, for example, he could be out in the field and it could almost get one of them killed. Actually, in this episode, it did almost get one of them killed, because when they were out in the field and they were going for the brother, Diana actually got, like, she was almost killed by one of the brother members, but fortunately, she managed to get out of it, but Diggle just stood there and watched as she was being strangled to death, basically. So, I have a feeling that that's gonna play out a bigger role in this season, even though he shouldn't really have PTSD. I can kind of understand it, but he's a soldier. Why? He's seen much worse than being like blown up. So yeah, that was a little bit confusing to why he had it, but it's still cool to see him. They're actually referencing back to Lian Yu and how it's affected the characters this season. Another Lian Yu reference that I didn't pick up in my notes, but I just remembered, was that Renee says to Oliver, or I think it was Renee, or it was Captain Lance, that you don't think that this could be Chase, like he could have put this in motion like months ago and have it only come up now because he knew he was going to die. And actually remember, it was Quentin Lance who said that. So, the casual reference is to Prometheus, and we know that Prometheus is actually coming back in a crossover, but I have a feeling it is Earth X Prometheus, obviously, unless somehow, by some way, I don't think the Lazarus Pit exists in the Arrowverse, so I don't think Earth 1 Prometheus can be brought back anyway. But, moving on from that, I love how Renee in the FBI agent's office, and how he was like asking her, did you always want to become an FBI agent? And how that led on to saying, well, women can do anything, and I'm a feminist like that. I was like, okay, Renee, just stop right now. You're just digging yourself into a deeper hole, pal. And like I said, Renee is actually my favorite character this season. I'm loving him so far. I really hope, because he's bringing a lighter tone to the season, and I feel like it's much needed, because, Arrow is a pretty dark show, and the fact that we have Renee being the, comedic relief in this season, is in the last episode, how he's like to Oliver, it's a good job we have a bunch of new recruits coming up after all of the SCPD just got slaughtered. That was, hilarious. I love the comedy in this season. Moving on, I think, this is my final point that I liked in this episode. The ending scene with Oliver and Diggle. Oh my god, Oliver wants to give up being the Green Arrow because he wants to spend more time with his son, William, which actually makes sense. So he's also takes less heat off on him for being the Green Arrow because he's not actually out there in the field. And if they actually capture the Green Arrow, they'll unmask him and find out that John Diggle. So he could be setting up his friend to be going down a dark path of being in prison again, because we know last season John Diggle was in prison he was set up by one of his ex-army officers, and that was a whole arc. So I don't know if Diggle's gonna go to prison again if they catch Green Arrow. That could be a thing that happens. Anyway, one more thing I wanted to pick up on is the fact that Diggle doesn't seem to be, unless Diggle gets back to being 100%, because as you saw, he wasn't 100% out in the field in these last two episodes. I have a feeling that the fact that Roy is coming back could link to Roy becoming the Green Arrow for a little while until Diggle fully recovers, because I believe in the comics Roy Harper has actually become a version of the Green Arrow on a different Earth maybe, but he's still been a version of the Green Arrow. So I'd love to see Roy in the Green Arrow outfit. That would be awesome to see, because we know Colton Haynes is coming back in this season. I actually have a video on Colton Haynes coming back and what he said and what it could mean. I will put an annotated card for that at the end of this video, so you can go check that out. But I can't wait to see what they do with Colton Haynes in this season, because he is an amazing actor. I know he was on Teen Wolf for the last few years, and the reason why he left Arrow was due to personal reasons, and he felt like he couldn't be the best he could be on the show. So yeah, that was why Roy left. Anyway, moving on to the things I didn't like. Both Flash and Arrow are doing similar things with the characters of Iris and William. Both of them freak out at Oliver or Barry for leaving them when they didn't really have much choice. For example, in The Flash, Iris freaked out at Barry for leaving her alone when the city was going to be destroyed if he didn't leave her. And then William, in this episode, freaked out at Oliver because he left him in the cab when he kind of had to go because he had a lead on Anatolia and he had to go and do Green Arrow things. Like, he did. they're freaking out for things that other people can't really control. And it's like, come on, you can. I'm not sure if I think it's the writing or is the acting. It's just no, don't do that. That's not how it. That's not. Oh, okay. So you can tell this got me really worked up. Anyway, I'm gonna move on from this point before I start making a 20-minute video on the fact that they're doing the same things, and it's okay. The next thing I didn't like was how they essentially recycled the plotline of, oh no, Oliver has been out of the Green Arrow. It's totally not like that has been done, like, twice before in the show. Like, Oliver was out as the Hood in Season 1, and then I believe he was out as the Green Arrow in not the Green Arrow, the Arrow in Season 3. Like, and then they solve it in the similar way. They had to have the tech genius, either Felicity or Curtis now, to say that, oh, this is fake. Like, in Season 1, I believe they did it so they faked the polygraph. And then in Season 3, they had to have John Diggle or Roy Harper suit up as the Green Arrow and go out and pretend to get Oliver out of it. It's like, no, stop recycling plot lines. We want to reveal that Oliver is the Green Arrow and he's got a new identity, but, like, we've seen it before twice. I don't need to see it again. Okay, so those were the two things that I didn't like in the episode. Moving on to the overall rating for this episode. I really enjoyed this episode of Arrow, but I feel like the premiere was better, and I would give this an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed all of the scenes with Renee. I enjoyed the breakfast scenes and the humor and the fact that Oliver's going to give up the Green Arrow. But the fact that they've done the same thing, similar plotline to what the Flash did in their episode 2, and the fact that they recycled the plotline from the previous seasons brought this overall score down from what would have been a 9 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. So that was my review for Arrow Season 6, Episode 2, which was entitled Tribute. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please do hit that like button as you know your support is very much appreciated, and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.